the data track. I'll just pull them from there. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, they're here.
Yep.
I have named slides.
Cool.
So do you want to speak, or there is not much to say actually?
You speak. I'll do notes.
Okay.
Like I said.
Because it's a good morning for you now.
Yeah. It's 9:30. It's not too bad now. It's not like JMAP at 5 a.m. So that was fun. Everyone gets a turn.
Okay, so maybe we can start. This is the CALEXT meeting. So if you're expecting something else, you're probably in the wrong session or the wrong room. You probably have seen this slide, the not well. So if you haven't, please the time to read it very, very fast. And we have a hello from Francesca. And I'm wondering, Francesca, do you want to say something before we go to the working group status or after the working group status?
Hello. I don't think I have much to say today. So please go ahead.
Okay. So, working group status. So we have an RFC. We have the GS calendar, but we are close to have two additional RFCs with the event pub extension and the VAlarm extension. So the working group documents I have listed are the iCalendar series, the GS calendar iCalendar conversion, server ID, server side subscriptions, subscription updates, and a vPool draft. So I think we will have a presentation on the GS calendar iCalendar. So this is where we're going to start with. And I mean, the other draft are from Mike, so I'm wondering if Mike is here and if he wants to say something at some point.
I'm here.
Okay, good.
There's not much to say about them, but we probably ought to have relations in there as well.
Oh, relation. So yeah, I might have missed this one. So yeah. The question I would have for you is, which is the one we should pick? And
well, there's a couple actually that are missing. There's task extensions and relations are not on the list, and I'm inclined to say we should try and concentrate on those two because they're useful for the JS calendar iCalendar mapping.
Okay.
So we might end up with dependencies there on those from the between those.
So if I recall correctly, the task has been on adoption call. Did we close that working group? Call for adoption. We have to check that. But okay, so the one you mentioned is the task one, and the other one is?
The iCalendar relations.
Okay, relations.
Yeah, both of those are referenced either implicitly or explicitly by the JS calendar iCalendar mapping.
Okay, and do you know when we will have those drafts being? I guess they're pretty much advanced.
The relation, yeah, I think they're both pretty advanced, and the relations one has been around. Well, they've both been around for a long time. The tasks one suffered from losing anybody who's had time to push along, so I've taken that on.
Okay.
But relations, I think, has been pretty well looked at, and
yeah,
I don't think there's any problems with relations now, other than tidying it up and pushing it through the process.
Yeah, the call for adoption for tasks finished just before IETF started, so yes, that is adopted. We just need to ask them to upload a new version of the draft.
Yeah, that'll be me.
Cool. All right, Mike, if you upload a new version of the draft, we'll approve it.
Great,
okay,
I'll
right.
do that,
and And so the relation, we can expect the relation to be pushed pretty easily in the next month.
I think so. It's been pretty well discussed and looked at. I don't think that there are any particular problems. It's a relatively simple RFC, draft RFC that really just codifies a lot of pre-existing stuff.
Is that the one with Cyrus?
No, it has things like temporal relations and things of that kind. So things that appear before things and things that appear after things, and a few other relationships.
Okay. So let's focus on the relation for the next month, and then the task. And so we clean the queue. So, is that Neil or Robert?
Before we move to the presentation, it's actually something I wanted to say. Well, first of all, congratulations and well done to the working group for 8980 publishing 8984, even though I arrived very late and delayed the process a little bit, but good job. And the RFC actually has a number of registries, and I have now a task to find designated experts for these IANA registries.
Francesca?
Yep.
We have a few people that have problem hearing you.
Oh, okay. It's quite strange. Let me try to reconnect. Can you hear me better now?
Not really.
Very good.
I will write in the chat.
Ah, that's better.
Oh, but that's better.
Okay. Wow.
We don't want to read.
Okay. Sorry, I will repeat myself. I don't know how much you heard, but I was saying... Nothing, okay. So I was saying, first of all, that I wanted to congratulate the working group and good job on publishing RFC 8984, of course, and I arrived quite late to the publication process and possibly delayed it a little bit, but well done to get it done. And I also was saying that this RFC has a number of IANA registries that need designated experts. So I have this task to actually select designated experts. I do not recall right now if I have sent an email to, but I think I have, to the chairs and authors. And I'll be looking for experts for these registries. So I'll be looking for someone to step up and take that.
I think I'm sure you sent that email because I had in mind I responded to it. And we proposed you. I think we proposed Neil, Robert, or Mike, and they're probably in the working group. They're probably attending this meeting.
Yeah. So I'll be reaching out to you guys soon.
Okay.
Neil, did you want to say something? Maybe not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Then it's presenting, I think, Neil.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so JS Calendar, iCalendar. So Mike and I have been working on this since last IETF. And next slide, please. So the part of converting from iCalendar to JS Calendar, I wouldn't say it's done, but we are quite far with that already. We are covering all the properties and iCalendar parameters that we intend to cover. except for the event pubs. Oh no, even event pub is already in there for this conversion direction. So what we will do now is that we will cross-check that with our implementations. Both Mike and I have an implementation in that direction already, and I guess we'll adapt the draft a bit there, but it all looks quite reasonable already. Next slide, please. For the other direction, from converting JS calendar to iCalendar, this is our main focus at this moment. A couple of decisions we made there were that in JS calendar you can have fractional seconds, but you can't currently in iCalendar. For quite a while we had thought we can cover this with a parameter on date time values properties, either called fractional or subsecond. We had discussed a couple of options how to do that in iCalendar, but it's really something that we came to realize we would only do a halfway job defining that in our conversion draft. It really warrants a separate RFC that, irrespective of JS calendar, thinks about what's needed for fractional seconds and probably also sub-second frequencies and recurrences to make this happen in iCalendar. So we are not going to cover that anymore in the conversion. And in that respect, we will see, okay, fractional seconds won't just be supported in iCalendar during the conversion right now. Another thing is that with the event pub draft now being in Auth 48 already, we definitely want to use the new components and properties that it gives us. Namely, these are the vParticipant and structured data properties mainly, which we'll want to use to map the JS calendar participant and JS link objects and others. I've already defined in the event pub is a backwards compatible way that the vParticipant still has to have a corresponding attendee, so that should be all good for clients that do not implement event pub at this stage. However, what's uncovered at the moment, and this is a general issue with iCalendar, is that we will have to decide when to trim down the iCalendar that we produced for clients that have that might choke otherwise if we send them components they do not know. In our experience, clients tend to ignore properties they do not know, but they tend to have an issue with components they do not know. I'm not sure if anyone in the working group here has already experience with how to handle these situations. It's not really related to JS calendar, but it's something we need to solve for iCalendar and CalDev to make that work properly. Anyone here has some input for us in that regard?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, things are supposed to accept valid iCalendar data, whatever that means, which does mean, I do know that iCal for J would actually not manage components nested as deeply as they could go with EventPub and bpol. And I provided fixes for that. That might be the case for other libraries, but I mean, unfortunately, unless you've got a protocol, you can't negotiate. So, I mean, what happens with IMIP? I mean, I have a feeling we're just going to have to send it and hope. And unless we can come up with some way for things to negotiate what they're prepared to accept.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't negotiate, like in IMIP, I think in our implementation, we'd rather assume that they cannot handle it. So we send out the trimmed version rather than hoping. But yeah, I don't know. It's basically falls back to, I don't know, kind of A/B testing and see when you get issues with that. But it's really suboptimal.
Before we go on too far, can we go back to fractional a minute?
Oh yes, sure.
Yeah, I think what we suggested when we were talking about the whole thing, and we were coming to some realizations over the implementation problems of fractional seconds, and one of the issues, while I can implement JS calendar, I won't necessarily have fractional seconds underlying it to start with. So I think one of the things we talked about was having being able to indicate whether or not you supported fractional seconds at all, and the default case is probably that we'll start off not supporting fractional seconds because the internal representation doesn't. So I think there's a sort of a sub bullet there about having some sort of capability or whatever, and something in CalDAV as well to indicate whether or not you support fractional seconds. And there's a sort of a slight addition. One of the things I think I did post that extracted draft for the fractional parameter, which I extracted from the mapping draft. Almost immediately, I decided that we shouldn't be doing that. Really, what we should do in iCalendar, if we want to support fractional seconds, is just support fractional seconds properly throughout, because I think while there's been repeated requests for fractional seconds in calendar data, they're coming from people who have a fairly specialized use. They're either wanting to record stuff that's happening down to the sub-second interval, or they want to do things like create very frequent, or at least very short interval iterations. I know in the smart grid, there's the need to be able to have iterations that are sub-second intervals. So, but in those cases, you can negotiate that you're going to support it, and if iCalendar turns up with sub-seconds on the DT start or whatever, that's fine. It's better than doing this weird parameter thing. I think is just support fractional seconds.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, agreed. So I'll continue then, or do you have do we have more to discuss on the backwards compatibility also with the new event pub components?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things we want to do is preserve the. So in JS calendar we have a couple of properties which are multi-valued, and we almost everywhere use the pattern of having that multi-value as a map with identifiers, and then the values whatever they are. Okay. And these maps have these identifiers, and the map have only meaning within the event, but we want to preserve these identifiers also in iCalendar, so we can loop back properly between JS calendar, iCalendar, and the other direction. So what I think we should do is to add a new iCalendar property called ID, which is a text value with no further restrictions. This ID property then will allow us to put it on, or actually, sorry, an ID parameter, and this property then will allow us to put this on everywhere where we need it. I think actually it also opens the possibility, and we might also need that for JS Calendar, to refer from one property or component within the EV calendar to other properties within that same V event, say. I'm thinking of the fact that links, so I'm thinking of the fact that, for example, a link object in JS Calendar can also have, a location can also have links, and now we could cross-reference, also declare this cross-reference within the iCalendar. But of course, implementations can also use this ID property for something else, I guess, if they do not care about JS Calendar. Are there any opinions about such a new parameter? Doesn't sound like it, so I guess we'll go with it if it turns out to be useful in our tests. And the last thing is one thing I haven't tackled.
I just wanted to add one question with that. Do we think ID is a sufficiently clear name, or does it need to be something longer, something more specific?
Well, I think
saying ID. Good.
I think it depends. In my opinion, it depends on if we want to use this just for JS Calendar, then it should get a name that really reflects this fact, or if it keep it as a generic parameter that could also be used for something else. But of course, then we might run into issues when people are using it indeed for something else.
Yeah, I think the main place we're going to run into issues is if we don't constrain it down to being an object ID in the JS calendar, specific constraints on what's allowed to be in it. If we just allow any random string in there, that could cause issues. So we probably want to at least constrain it to say it must be an object ID.
Yeah, right. I mean, I also thought of that. I mean, we would just outright ignore it, but of course, we can also really call this a JS calendar ID, and then we can put all the constraints on it that we want for that. Might be actually the better idea.
I have to call it ID, but it still wants to have the constraints, I think.
Okay.
In the spec.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things we'll probably discuss it for a while about what exactly it's called, but I don't think we ought to make it specific to JS calendar, at least in the name. We're bound to find another use for it.
Yeah, okay, works for me. Great, so then we'll discuss this in our next RFC draft session. Okay, and localizations. So I haven't really spent much time still on covering this in our own implementation, but all the attempts that I made were really suboptimal. So we might need to have a vLocalization component to define that that allows us to really map all the contents of a localizations object in JS Calendar properly. I'm seeing this differently. I'm not aware of any current solution being the lang parameter that is enough for what we want to achieve.
There isn't. And as I've been a proponent of EOS, I've been saying we need localization for some time, so I'm prepared to help define that. And you're right. I think didn't we decide in the last chat we had that we would probably put localization off for the time being in the mapping and do that as a separate.
Yes, I think we already discussed it, and if not, I would have proposed it now. So let's do that.
I think that's reasonable, given that it's effectively a new feature. We can probably put it off for the time being and say do a localization or a V-localization specification, which also does the mapping to JS Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes,
so we can cover it as a separate draft then RFC.
Yeah, sounds good to me. These are the points I had prepared. Is there any other thing to discuss for JS Calendar, iCalendar now? All right, so then that's it.
Okay, good. So maybe that's something we will discuss while we will be looking at the milestones. But I'm wondering, when do you think that the document is going to be ready?
So I can say it will not be ready before the end of the year.
Okay. So, but I mean, do you expect to have it ready in December or June?
Oh, I mean, we can aim for December.
Yes, we'll aim for December. And
okay, good.
Except for the two, at least, but except for the two topics we discussed with the separate RFCs for fractional seconds and delocalization.
Okay, right. Okay, so I think that's all for the presentation. Now, Brown, should we go to? Oh, you want to say something? No.
I think we probably should address Barry's question that he raised, which was the documents that are currently in Auth 48 status.
Yeah.
We have 2 of those. So just get a brief status update on each of those.
Yeah, so I see those two. Do you see my screen? Do you see the documents?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Okay, so the 2 documents Barry were mentioning, I guess, is the event pub and the V-alarm. And so the reason they have been...
Part of it is that I was confused by the, I always get confused by how the data tracker keeps track of states versus substates. So the number of days in red is not how long they've been in Auth 48, it's how long they've been in the RFC editor queue. So
yeah, that's it.
Just a quick status update on those 2 documents is all I'm looking for, and nothing big. And sorry I was alarming.
Okay, so basically end of June we received a feedback from the RFC editor for the Auth 48, and it has been responded. I think now they're waiting. Oh, it's not what I expected, but they are waiting for the AD to validate those. So here we do have, so that's the event pub. And if I'm clicking here, so I think that's Francesca. It's on the hand of Francesca. And I think for the other one, it's the same. So that's the V-alarm. It's everything has been done by the co-author. So
yeah, regarding VLM extensions, that is pretty much ready to walk out the door. There was a discussion about some IANA language and whether we want to mention RFC 8126 in that. I'm fine either way. Barry seems to think the language as it is fine, but obviously he's just a participant now. He's no longer the AD. So Francesca said she would look at it next week. So hopefully it'll be out soon.
yeah. So here we're good. Now considering that we have drafts that are missing, I mean the task and the relation one, I'm wondering, do we want to go to the milestone? So where are the milestones? Do you want me to edit that? Okay, so milestone. I don't know how we did that. Edit milestones. So submit calendar series, June 21. I think we are a little bit late. So when do we want to? Can we expect that to be done by the end of the year? I don't think so.
So which one are we editing here? iCalendar series, yeah. And end of the year is probably the earliest, I'd say.
Yeah. So should we be safe and say March 22?
I guess Mike's probably the person to ask about these things because he's the editor on it. Mike, do you have opinions on when our calendar series will be ready?
Mute on, aren't I? Yes, I agree. Push it into next year. There's other things that really need to be done before that. So March probably good.
Subscription update.
Upgrade. That's much closer to done as a spec. We could say end of the year, I guess.
Okay. Oh, okay. I can click. So this one, the iCal relation. So let's say September.
Yeah, let's say September. I mean, that one we'd like to get through faster because, as I say, because of the tie-in to the mapping.
And we don't have the task one. I mean, well, the problem is that I don't have the title.
Yeah,
so,
should be able to auto-complete there. I can probably do that too, but then there'll be 2 submissions going, right?
Okay, so let's say this one is the so I guess it's draft, but it's
just say submit tasks draft to ISG, and then you can type in the drafts section to find it.
Hey, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but won't tasks depend on relations?
Tasks does depend on relations, yes.
Yep.
Draft to EC document. You say so. You said it's draft.
Oh, it.
If you just type tasks, it should find it.
Yeah.
It's not draft Douglas.
Oh.
It's AppThorpe, isn't it? It's draft AppThorpe.
Yeah. Tasks might find too many. There it is, right at the top. Draft AppThorpe.
Okay. So this one, September.
Yeah, it's a lot that doesn't need much discussion.
So yeah, maybe change the title to submit tasks draft.
Yeah.
There. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
So now the server side.
Where are we with that, Ken?
That's a good question, Mike. Haven't heard back from Apple as to what they're doing, so I guess we'll just keep kicking that can down the road.
So June.
Yeah, we can always move it up again if something happens.
Oh, we can submit earlier.
Yes.
So this one, we aim for December. VPool.
Let's put that into next year as well for the time being. I'd like to
March,
along,
June.
June.
Okay, sounds good. Review changes. So I think that
there's an extra one.
Yeah. So looks good. So we have December, the upgrade, the task. Which is the one we're missing? The relation.
That's 2 up. Just got a
okay.
couple more.
Yep.
Okay, this one. So September task. The scheduling. Do we keep that one?
I think let's just remove that document entirely. Actually, looking at it, there's really no point. So that was my draft. If I do something like that, I think it'll just be extend the schedule reply false header to apply to everything.
So I delete that one. But, and
yeah, just delete it. I've let the document expire. I think we'll just let that one die.
Okay. So review changes. Okay, so we have that. Okay, sounds good. Save.
Yep.
And it seems to me, well, it's it's kind of open mic now. So if anyone wants to say something, otherwise we may adjourn the meeting. Barry, Francesca, do you want to close the meeting?
All right. Nothing else to add. Thank you for updating my phone.
Okay. Then I think we're done.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye-bye.